Ever wondered how many years Homer would be sentenced to prison if we counted every crime he's committed throughout the Simpsons series? Spoiler alert, the numbers are in 3 digits. Let's start with Homer's job. He's the safety inspector at the Springfield nuclear power plant, and obviously, it's a title that sounds important, right? But in Homer's hands, that is not the case. In the episode titled Homer Defined, the town of Springfield is in danger of being nuked, and Homer is the hero who pulls through. Not because he knows how to do it, he simply pushes a button. Suppose there's one thing that is not worth taking for granted, it's negligence, particularly in a nuclear facility. At this stage, Homer regularly endangers the safety of the whole of Springfield. It is a joke in the show, collectively. That's a minimum of 60 years behind bars, and that is if the judge does not add additional years to each donut consumed on the job. But wait, it gets worse. In the episode King Size Homer, he tries to get a disability so he can just work at home, which only proves how much Bum wants to avoid work. He almost blows up the whole town and turns it into an enormous size that even accidentally covers the plant's fence. Between fraud, endangerment, and the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, aka OSHA violations, that's another 30 years. By now, we're already looking at Homer spending more time in prison than free, and we've only covered his day job. If OSHA existed in Springfield, Homer would have his very own special section, so OSHA could just keep track of him. Either Springfield has had luck or simply good fortune to avoid a disaster like Chernobyl, thanks to Homer. Next, it's his crimes against the environment. Of course, if Homer does not pollute Springfield, he will necessarily invent some other methods of making the planet a less desirable place to live in. Remember the Simpsons movie? The protagonist of this episode hails from Springfield. He takes a container full of pig crap and pours it into a lake. Lisa says that is a disaster. Homer says it is Tuesday. Well, in real life, it seems that the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, will not tolerate such misconduct. Disposing of hazardous waste in water bodies is an offense against federal laws. The sentence, 10 years in prison for illegal disposal. And then there's the expense of cleanup. Tens of millions of dollars that Homer can't even pay back if he works 80 hours a week at the nuclear plant for the rest of his life. But wait, there's more. Homer's environmental sins do not end with the pig waste. In the episode Trash of the Titans, Homer betrays his bosses and advocates for himself to be the sanitation commissioner in charge of disposing of trash in Springfield. But he makes do by simply burying the city in it. Literally, the entire town turns into a dumpster site under his management. Such mismanagement would result in litigation, cleanup costs, and criminal proceedings, which is another 5 years to gross negligence. Frankly, Springfield is a fortunate town that the EPA has not shut it down. And let's not forget the smaller violations. Dumping toxic substance in the episode Bart Gets an F, dropping a nuclear fish into the town's water supply by mistake. Any of these may incur extra costs. If we're going to be cheerful, we can add another 15 years to it. By now, for the environmental crimes, only Homer deserves a prison term, which he would probably be eligible for forgiveness sometime in 2090. His interference with the lives of the people of Springfield might be even worse. Let's start with his family. Of course, he loves his kids, despite all the problems and regardless of his misconduct. But Homer Simpson has choked his son enough times that it has to be a family tradition at this point. Every case of choking could attract such a term as 6 months to a year of imprisonment. Take that back. Well, let's say hundreds of episodes, and Homer is staring at 300 years in prison for this alone. And it's not just Bart. Homer has caused danger to Marge, Lisa, Maggie, and even to Simpson's grandfather more than any count that one can imagine. In the episode Bart of Darkness, he locks Bart outside in a pool where the boy has a broken leg. That's irresponsible behavior. It adds up to another 5 years. In another episode titled The Springfield Connection, he takes Lisa to the dangerous district to teach her courage and endanger her life. That adds another 5 years. Honestly, if there was a CPS in Springfield, he lost custody of the kids years ago, he would. Now, let's discuss a few of his neighbors. First, Ned Flanders. Homer has borrowed things from him so often that you would not believe that Ned has not shifted to another city. Clothes hangers, decorations, tools, and of course food. And if it was in Marge's house, Homer took it. From the legal perspective, it could take Homer to prison for having served 10 years. At this rate, he is not just an annoyance as a neighbor, but more of a culprit in the colony on his own. Homer doesn't mean to harm, but his actions often cause trouble. Now, let's talk about the frauds Homer has done. In the episode The Trouble with Trillions, Homer acts like Mr. Burns and steals a $1 trillion bill. Let me break down each part of this one by one. To start with, here we have identity theft. In real life, mimicking someone and getting a hold of resources belonging to a billionaire would see you spend 20 years in jail. Homer tried to escape the country, which gave this both conspiracy and possible charges of disloyalty. Still, let's add another 15 more years to the forecast. We are now at 60, and this is only one scheme. What's more, there is even more rip-off misinformation. Remember the episode Lard of the Dance? Homer goes as far as illegally exploiting the Krusty Land operation and selling the grease.
Didn't want her car ruined, she should have done a better job hiding her keys.
Not only does he steal from his workplace, but he also punches Willie, the groundskeeper, in a greasy alley. That is theft, running an unauthorized business, which could give Homer an additional 10 years. There is also another episode titled Homer versus the 18th Amendment. It showed Homer turning into a self-denial league violator, a villain who refines and transports liquor during the period when the sale of alcohol was prohibited in the United States of America. In real life, people implementing the initiatives of running an illegal refinery and distributing alcohol without permits face imprisonment for 20 years. Seriously, Homer could have gangstered up Springfield and been the Al Capone of them all if he had not been caught. Next, it's his accidental crimes. Homer might argue that many of his crimes weren't intentional. And if there is such a thing in Homer, he mishaps just as much as he plots. Take the episode Deep Space Homer, for example. NASA invites him to space, and what does he do? Sends ants with explosives into zero gravity. The spaceship becomes out of control. It is like destroying national property and risking astronauts. Another 30 years in prison, and they don't even bother to ask questions for it. And then there is an episode titled A Star is Burns, in which Homer sets City Hall on, well, flames. Yeah, it was done under the influence of alcohol, but burning something is a crime, isn't it? This would mean another 15 years. Who can also easily recall Homer Alone, wherein he abandons Maggie and ends up endangering her life several times. Child endangerment at 10 years. Homer has some dangerous hobbies, like blowing things up and dangerously driving with complete disregard for people around him. Who could forget Summer of Her Feet 2, where Homer sets off what can be best described as an outburst of fireworks. Finally, in real life, one cannot just buy unlicensed explosives at all and add another 110 years, frankly. If Homer was real, he would travel from office to office, paying out $3,500 bills just for insurance. Homer Simpson, the king of bad decisions, has also a habit of driving like he owns the road. He starts by rushing through traffic with no concern for safety, like speeding, cutting people off, and ignoring every rule in the book. It's classic Homer, full throttle and no brakes. But this time, his bad habits seriously affect his health. His stress triggers a heart attack, landing him in the hospital with triple bypass surgery ahead. His vehicular offenses combined could add another 25 years. Next, Marge becomes a police officer, and Homer quickly notices how much her new role changes things. One day, a man offers Homer an expensive RV for just a penny. Tempted by the deal, Homer jumps at the chance without thinking it through. Soon, Marge discovers that the RV was actually stolen. Instead of returning it or admitting it was stolen, Homer tries to keep it, arguing that he didn't personally steal it. His careless decision to buy and attempt to sell the stolen RV shows reckless behavior and a disregard for the law. Homer Simpson's actions involve nuclear accidents, environmental damage, and risking his family's safety. and his potential prison time just keeps adding up. Homer Simpson has had several encounters with the Springfield Police Department. In the episode Homer vs. Lisa, Homer steals cable, which may seem harmless, but it's theft of services, a crime that could land him up to 5 years in prison. Homer's knack for manipulating others for personal gain is also evident. When Bart gets famous, he exploits Bart's fame to sell merchandise, ignores labor laws, and dodges taxes. Add another 7 years to his potential sentence. Then, there's his questionable behavior at a barbecue in the episode Lisa the Vegetarian, where he publicly mocks Lisa's dietary choices. While not a crime, his actions amount to public harassment, which could lead to fines or community service. Another scene is where Homer is committing the crime of illegal bootlegging, smuggling, and distributing alcohol during a time when it is prohibited. This is a serious offense, especially during Prohibition, when it was punishable by law. As a bootlegger, Homer could face charges such as conspiracy to violate alcohol laws, possession and distribution of illegal alcohol, and operating an illegal brewery. If Homer were caught and convicted for his actions, he could face 5 to 10 years in prison for bootlegging and related crimes. Next, in an episode when Bart tries to prank Krusty the Clown, it gets a little wild. Bart accidentally uncovers a secret. In fact, Krusty has been dodging taxes forever. And wait, this isn't just a Krusty thing. Homer's true relationship with money isn't exactly legitimate either. Homer looks like a man trying to ignore bills, stretch the limit on corners, and dodge the responsibilities that could put him in legal trouble throughout the series. We summed up Homer's crimes like nuclear safety violations, environmental disasters, reckless endangerment, and so on. We got a verdict. Freaking 635 years behind bars. Yep, and Homer would be locked up for well over half a millennium. At this rate, Homer's great-great-great-grandchildren might still be visiting him when he is behind bars. If you had fun watching Homer Simpson's criminal adventures, don't forget to press that like button and share this video with your friends. And let us know if you want to see more of this type of content.